Um, as you see here, Shakespeare. Now you may wonder what Shakespeare has to do with Overman and Superman. I Until now I didn't know, but now I finally understand what the significance of Shakespeare and all his plays and whatever. Personally, I never knew about Shakespeare or other than his crazy way of speaking, rather than being straightforward, he would twist words around to say the same thing. But as many drama actors get involved with Shakespeare, I didn't know anything about it. I never cared for it. But as a philosopher, I have finally understood the meaning and the significance of Shakespeare. Now, personally, I have to explain to you. When I was in like elementary six, and they did plays on the stage as all students go through. I I personally wouldn't put myself out there because I thought it was too tacky and it it was I didn't want to embarrass myself. And the funny thing about it is that all these people who so-called artists or pretentious artists, they would take pictures of sceneries. These actors would act. They would do performances. I mean, I'm a very straightforward, primitive. I guess I was more like a jock. You know, always about physical body and all that. So I never had this artistic creativity or vision like drama artists are known for. So when I see people taking pictures and sceneries or people acting out certain plays, I thought these people were like very tacky and they're just looking for attention seekers. Until in my later years, as I finally getting the the closure, and as a 21st century philosopher of the human species, that I began to understand the the greatness and the significance of Shakespeare. Because as a person who seeks to know things of life, which is massive, but without so-called these tacky artistic people from photography to playing around with these kind of cameras, like what sophistication of camera, this kind of camera, that kind of camera, this kind of these like tech things. I mean, and actors, like I want to be an actor. What does that really mean? Like, to an ignorant person, I never really knew the value of them. Everything, directors, actors, all the equipment. I never knew the value of it until I finally understood the power and the significance of these so-called tacky people. Without Shakespeare's, however you may see it as being uh, flamboyant or just dramatical or tacky, whatever. The famous popular quote he said is that all humans leave this world differently. I guess we all come to existence the same way, but we all leave differently. That that statement hit me like really hard as a philosopher, it is a very profound statement, because as we see human tragedies in crime stories, FBI, I mean, there are the programs of crimes, how people lived and died, murderers. I mean, most horrendous way to most simplicity, cause and effect of getting gangster, drug dealers, killing each other. I mean, that's cause and effect. That's nothing special, really. That's just common sense, logical. But when you're talking about these people who are logically educated, who have been through school, private schools, or innocent of children, or even people who are product of prodigies in their elementary years or whatever, when they become killers in whatever degree, most primitive to most profound to most sickly in sexual perversions, and in predator to prey, although the humans in within the naivety and sensitivity judges every crime, individual, perpetrator to the prey in whatever degree. But as a philosopher who continuous studies human existence and everything, without Shakespeare, the time of human existence could not have been imprinted. Basically, without Shakespeare, I could, as a philosopher, 21st century philosopher, I could not obtain the wisdom and knowledge of the past to whatever degree, from 1,000 years, 10,000 years of how humans acted in whatever, perversions to heroics to whatever. These actors that which I have criticized and prejudicially judged in their superficial way of wanting to be something, these people have recreated time of existence that philosophers, all intellectuals who wants to seek into the deep, deep era of before modern time, the only way they could obtain it is because of Shakespeare. So within my early years of judging these people, actors to photographers, these people have imprinted. They have sacrificed their life, no matter how lame and how illogical it may be within human life form. Like, go to work, get a job, go make the money, rather than trying to be something of superficial, how ridiculous that may sound to most parents in the early years. You're talking about a lot of families out there who they were worried about how they're gonna maintain their mortgage payments, the house, family farms. Then some of the kids, they want to be photographers and they want to be actors. The impossible odds, even if they did succeed, the parents then understand, what is that? I mean, actors, what? You want to stand in front of a camera and act like certain things, like a child, like children. You're grown people. So, as old parents who are logical, who are very naive in understanding in progression of human species, I was the same way. So it's a very ironic thing that I am sitting here and talking about Shakespeare and everything within dramatic academics. So I began to understand all his stories, maybe Phantom or his opera performances, speaking of Julius Caesar's, and I mean, okay, I don't know performance of art. All I know is that through these people, you're talking about how many? You're talking about hundreds and thousands of people who have dedicated their life unconditionally, not for money, not for fame, but they felt internally that they were born, they were destined to be a representative of a person who is going to recreate life from whatever era. So I am now very fascinated by Shakespeare in all his work. I mean, I don't study, I don't really care for it, but what he has done toward human evolutional growth in ideology to perception is beyond words, I would say. I mean, without his first concept and ideology and perception of what could be created through various human involvement of stage plays and all the kinds of equipments and technological equipments, that he has manifested basically human gods. Because no matter what era, dinosaurs, caveman, before the man existed, through the photography, techno of equipment, and his ideology of creating a world of whatever specification to perception, that it has given the overman or any intellectuals the ability to see through the into the deep cores of human existence, and it is massive. I mean, you could not just sit and watch every individual. It's written in every crime story, to entertainment purposes, to comedy, drama. I mean, it's massive, and to see all the films that has ever been produced, you really have to be a very obsessive person to study humans to enter into that world. It is just, I mean, you talking about these computer kids sitting on a chair for 20 hours to go into the deep into the human dispositions from whatever era and time. The amount of time and energy is put forth. These kids that spend so-called computer game whatever, it is nothing compared to the time in which you must invest to see through God's eyes. So, as to be honest, I really don't know how far I could say or express of Shakespeare. Other than that, he has been, well, I have been very naive in truly appreciating his ideology to work. And all the actors, all the people who have tragically befallen to alcoholism, to self-destructive life, just to be part of his visions of creating a world of different dimensions. So, I mean, as a mature person now, I mean, when I was young and ignorant, I didn't know anything. But now I begin to understand the value and the sacrifice these drama artists, these people who technologically usage of various kinds of cameras and sounds and people costumes and people their continuous dedication to creating story scenarios from the books, from personal stories to document from ancient relics. I mean, without these people, in the number, it is massive. And a lot of them, unfortunately, have ended their life in tragedies because, well, I guess basically you have to have a big ego, and if you can't succeed mostly in financial compensations, they will be befallen. You know, you're talking massive amount of people. But just as all writers and painters, any kind of artists who are befallen, unfortunately, that is the sacrifice that was to be made for the the results and final products of some of the greatest films. I mean, it's not so much about great film, money making film. Some of the greatest secrets of the God, I'm talking about historical moments, are written in a story that is done documentary wise and it is not known publicly through the media. It is somewhere hidden in some secret place. They made it and it's been kept under dust. But through the YouTube, I am able to access to it. I mean, you can't look for it. It's just that my continuous study of the human dispositions, and I enter. While humans mostly look through the YouTube of superficial things, like high YouTube counts, those things. I look at things that are not known, that not many viewers look at. Things that will bore you. Anything of the human existence, dispositions, the life stories, these things. Not these superficial superhero, supervillain things, or, not these things. I study humans in their most simplest forms to most tragedies and whatever. And you're talking massive, massive, that I cannot even tell you the amount of hours you're sitting on a chair and just watching these movies and documentaries and everything. And without them, without these people, in however way they have lived their life, ended their life after pursuing the superficial media of fame or whatever, however they may have ended, they have left an imprint of possibility that has happened of the human existence that I have taken great value to, that most humans would just throw away and not even pay attention to. But to be a philosopher and to see through God's eyes, these people, Shakespeare, beginning, the pioneer of this, creating this tunnel of wisdom and power of God, that these people have dedicated their life and they continue to be. And of course, nowadays it's all just superficial things. But back in the day, the movies, whether it's a cowboy movie, whether it's about ancient missionary movie, tribe movies, I mean, the farther I go back into time of human disposition, human existence, the more potent, the more real the human existence and the value of it. Nowadays, it's just all mixed color and rainbow. It's like throwing a bunch of paints against the wall. That's why it's just so delusional, you know. But as a philosopher, into wanting to see what is the final end, final curtain, where is the end of this human existence or human disposition? Of course, there is no end as long as human exists. But it's a repetitive. All the stories that are in the Bible, all the stories, Jesus Christ saving a blind man, healing the sick, David and the Goliath, young David fighting the giant, or even pervertedly things of sisters having sex with their own father, even stories like that, or a woman has stolen baby from biological parents, and I mean, whatever the stories the Bible has, the modern life is continued. If you take all the films that were made and put them on on a screen, every kind, you're talking millions and millions and millions. The human existence as a population increases, it's only repeating it or duplicating it in more possibility. It's like, here's a foundation of Jesus Christ saving the blind, and then it goes up, modern version. There are people out there who, whether you believe them or not, are representation of a prophet, and they come up. Some of them go productive, and some of them will abuse it and become destructive, of like a pedophile people. But nevertheless, all the stories that had existed in biblical, we have to take the biblical stories as being a basic foundation, and then it evolves. So nothing really dies, nothing really is a myth, everything is real. As human race overpopulates, the human possibility of existence in productive to destructive, it's all existing in this time. That's why there are so many people. The penitentiary system is increasing, the mental institution is increasing. All these humans, overpopulation is creating more avenue, a possibility of how humans began. The old story of Julius Caesar, you know, there are people in prison who are representative of Julius Caesar and Brutus. One time they were the big mafia, they were the biggest drug dealer, they were the biggest corporations, they were the biggest group of people who helped save people, but through betrayal or envy or egotistical needs, they would kill one another, whether it's for women, whether it's for money, whether it's for fame, whether it's a continuous, so it never died. It just increased. So, as I was very ignorantly criticized and prejudicially judged these people who walk around, take photography, people who want to spend their time on a stage acting in whatever way, rather than going to work and being like other civilized people. And without these people's rare, illogical way of living their life, in whatever reasons they pursued it, these people are, well, without them, there couldn't be films couldn't be made. There couldn't be a story. Stories cannot be performed on stages, and stages cannot be recreate the time of human existence for whatever era. So I have finally recognized that without Shakespeare, my philosophical perception of the world and everything within, in outer universe to the very singular cell of cells, and everything within, it could not have been done without Shakespeare in his first pioneering idea of giving illusion, perceptions or scenes of human tragedies to disposition. Um, so it's very ironic that something that I despised, who I thought was too tacky, became a very significant and very powerful in reaching for God's wisdom and power. So within that, I guess that's all I could say for Shakespeare, but he has done some great justice for all intellectuals. And here I find out, as a philosopher of human existence, this was his profound saying of all humans will leave this world differently. What he is basically saying, that there is no right and wrong. We are all fated to participate and be a contributor to this human civilization and human existence. And although the humans may judge upon all the illogical, sinful, destructive, but they were only playing their part in this big stage of life. So, if I was to say a final word, is that I would have to say, be very careful, or have some understanding for whatever negative or illogical of human dispositions, no matter how illogical and unproductive and sinful it may be. So for today, that will be all.